Okay, this video is to help you with Tech 4, Part 3, where we're guessing at correlation. The first part of that says to press the clear button. That's because you might still have some of your work from Part 2 right here, so I'll go ahead and press clear, but nothing there already. I did that already. So then Part A says to enter a sample size of 200, so I'm going to click that. Make sure your name is in this box if it wasn't already there from the previous one. Type it in now. And then it says to set the amount of variation to random. Yours was probably set to little, so just pull that down and select random. And then it says to get data. So we would do that, and then we're going to try and guess at the correlation. But when you read the part about getting the data, it says if your data comes up perfectly linear, then press clear and get data again. And the reason for that is it's too easy to guess the correlation on perfectly linear. Sometimes people see one like this, and it's such a strong linear pattern, they're like, oh, is this perfect? And the answer to that is no, because I can't draw a line through here. Look, if I draw my regression line, does that hit every single point dead center? No, so that's not perfectly linear. Let me show you perfectly linear. That would be with no variation. So this is what a perfectly linear pattern looks like. No data values off pattern, not even a little. So when you draw the regression line, it goes right through the middle of all those points. So that's what they're talking about with perfectly linear. That's unacceptable for the guessing, because it's too obvious what the correlation is. It's either +1, or in this case, because it's going down, -1. So let me hit clear and do what we're supposed to here, which is set the variation to random, 200 pieces of data, get a data set, and then try and guess at its correlation. So I think the first thing you always want to sort out is sign. This data pattern has a downward trend to it. So when I guess my correlation, I'm going to say -0 point something. And then I'm going to think about how strong this is. And this doesn't seem like a very strong pattern. If we drew the line through maybe like this, that data is very loosely gathered around that. So I don't want to guess a real strong number, which would be near -1. I'm going to guess something more towards the 0. But it's not total chaos, and sometimes these that are messier are a little stronger than you think. I'm going to guess -0.4, and we'll see how I do. So there's two steps to see how you did. First, click on regression, and then second, calculate r and r squared. And then what you want to do is look at the one of these two, which is the correlation, so you have to know which one that is. I'll help you out with that a bit here. R is the correlation, and then it says to look to see if the difference between these two is 0.05 or less. So just type one of them into your calculator and then minus the other one. In this case, if I do that, I would get 0.058972, which means I'm off by just a little bit more than 0.05. Super close, but not quite good enough. So if the one you do at first isn't close enough, then we just try again. So I press clear, get more data, and give it another shot. So this one is positive because there's a slight upward trend from left to right. So I'll put 0 point, no negative this time. This pattern seems a little bit more organized, though when it's more horizontal, that can actually weaken the correlation some. Imagine the window only drawn like with a top here and a bottom there. This might look a little more chaotic, but it seems better than last time. So I'm going to put, let's see, I guessed a little too low last time, so I'm going to go 0.52. Again, with the idea that this is an upward trend, but not super tightly packed around the regression line. So I'm not going to give a number real close to 1. And then to see how I did, I'm going to click regression and calc r and r squared. And again, I just missed by a tiny bit too much. This is 0.52. This is 0.571874. That's the real r. There's my guess. If you do the subtraction on these two, you will get 0.051874. 0.0518, which means it's over 0.05, so it's not close enough. Very, very close to being an acceptable one, but not quite. I guess that's good news for you because you get to see more examples. So clear, get data. There's a battle between this, which is tightly packed, and the fact that it's very horizontal that can make this pretty hard to sort out, but I'll give it a try. If you are imagining drawing the line here and here for the top and bottom of the screen and stretching this data out, it would look more chaotic than it seems here. There's a slight positive trend to it. I really feel like this is still pretty messy because it's so horizontal, that in the horizontal strip that would contain all this data, it's really using up most of the space. So I'm not going to guess something as strong as you might think, given how narrow that is. So let's see what I get. Regression R&R squared, and I got it. The difference between 0.5 and 0.474814 is 0.025186, I think, but it's definitely 0.02 something, which means it's under 0.05. So I could do a screen capture on this one and it would count. I want to do another one for you just because we've had all week correlations. So let me try another one. That's a messy one again. So here's one that is still fairly messy. Let me see. This is a little better. So let me go ahead and guess this one just so you see some variety in the type of data that we're getting. This is a downward pattern, so I'm going to guess negative 0 point something. And then this feels like it's a fairly good linear pattern. If I drew the line in there, this is fairly close to what that line would be. So I'm going to guess a pretty strong number, maybe like a 0.9. It's definitely not perfect, so I'm not going to guess negative 1. And let's see how that goes. So regression line, calculate R&R squared, and it was a negative 0.93. So I was off by a little over 0.03, but that's under 0.05, so it means that's close enough. Remember, this one is your correlation. This is the coefficient of determination. So when you're thinking about the comparison, it's always your guess at correlation to the actual correlation, which is R. Alright, so here's a good one. So I'm going to capture this and put it in a report. So I'm going to do Alt print screen. And remember, if the graph disappears, to click on refresh if you need to. So Alt and print screen. That's my copy. So now I'm going to pull up my Google Doc, and 3E is where that goes, so I'm going to put Control V and paste that in, and like was happening earlier in this report, those are getting separated, so I'm going to click above the 3, press enter enough times that my label and the graph are on the same thing. There's really nothing you have to do on this part on the report. Sometimes people will show their subtraction to show that the difference is under 0.05. You can show that if you want, but that's not required that you write it down. It's just required that you calculate it and make sure you have a small enough difference, because I'm going to be looking at that, and if that difference is over 0.05, you're not going to get full credit on this, so you want to make sure you're doing this again and again until you get a small enough difference. Alright, so that finishes off Tech 4. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. Good luck at your guessing.